We also have that commercial real estate loan delinquencies are growing. And what this means is that more owners of commercial real estate includes several different types of properties. It includes office, includes retail strip centers, it includes multifamily buildings, it includes warehouses, it includes self-storage. Commercial real estate is kind of a big umbrella term that includes all of those things. And of all those different sectors, the one that's in the most trouble is the office sector. And I think everyone kind of knows about that by now. As more people since COVID are working from home, there isn't as much need for office, although those trends are starting to level themselves out. Nice offices, they tend to be full. It's more the older offices, the Class B, Class C offices that are not full, and they're having a reposition. But there are a lot of operators across these asset classes, including multifamily, who, because of what has happened with debt over the last 2.5 years, going from 3.5% to 7.5% or higher, they are now in a position where the property doesn't make sense anymore because that debt payment is so much higher. And in this article, it talks about how loan delinquencies increased up 1.25% in the first quarter, and that's the new high in this cycle. And so we're starting to see some of these kind of early signs. Some of these are, fig leaves that you can see that are indicating something broader. And we also know many lenders are still working with their borrowers to rework the terms of their projects. Lenders are being pretty flexible, either extending maturities or not requiring full interest payments in some cases. But we know $929 billion, that's almost $1 trillion in outstanding commercial mortgages across all commercial real estate mature sometime in 2024. So we're going to start seeing additional distress because anytime you have an interest rate move that big in a business that has fixed incomes, fixed revenues, and so let's just talk a little bit about what that means. When you rent a strip center, a retail strip center, to 3 or 4 tenants, they are signing 10-year leases, and their leases might increase every year, but it's by a couple of percent, and it's a fixed amount that's already determined. So you basically have fixed income coming in from that property. But when your debt goes from 3.5% to 8%, in some cases 3 times what you were paying before in interest, it changes the dynamics of that investment. And you can't raise more income by just taking the rents up when they have those fixed rates. And so it is a big impact to some properties.
Jameson, you made a good point this morning, if you want to just re-go over it, about, if you're going to pay your rent and a car payment.
Yeah, I kind of liken it to if you're as a consumer, let's say you're able to go afford your rent, you're able to afford a car payment, may even have a student loan. In the world where your car payment and the student loan is at 3%, maybe your payments, you're just making it and you're feeling all right. But now those payments go, your car payment goes up by $200, your student loan goes up by $250. Now it just doesn't make sense, and there's a lot of stress there to make those payments. And at some point, that stress breaks. As a wise man once said, every man has their breaking point. So they can hold on as long as they can, but at some point, it's gonna the dam is gonna break. And as a consumer, we understand that because you can kind of get through that a little bit. But if that payment stays high, it kind of becomes the new normal. At some point you go, this just doesn't make sense. Now, there's been a lot of talk that interest rates would come back down, and that was kind of the hope of a lot of people. But what we're seeing now is interest rates are probably going to stay higher for longer. And so in that scenario, if you're that person and interest rates are going to stay that same amount for a while, you're probably finally going to have your moment. You fall on your sword. You got to sell the car, go talk to the bank. It's the breaking point. And now we're starting to see interest rates that are probably going to stay higher for longer.
And for us, we have the distressed asset fund where we're buying distressed multifamily assets. And that's a question I get from investors every single day is, are these deals actually going to come onto the market? And to answer your question, yes, there is that breaking point. We already are seeing some stress and some deals coming onto the market, but towards the end of this year, we're expecting to see more, and it really gives us an opportunity to go capitalize on these deals at a discount.
And we're a very active buyer of distressed properties, and so we see many every week. We have, since we launched the fund a couple of months ago, none of them made enough sense for us to quite move on yet, but many of them were close. But because we expect to see more going forward, we're being a bit patient. We have to be really disciplined in what we want to buy and maintain that discipline through kind of the noise of what we're hearing. But we do expect to acquire some really good assets, 5 to 10 of these assets that are distressed. And not only will they be distressed, meaning we get a good purchase price on them, but they're going to be in good locations. They're going to be in core areas so that when the market does come back, those are going to be the assets that you want to own long term. So that's how we're looking at it. And we expect we're going to see more distress going forward. And just one anecdote, had a few conversations recently with investors who also invested in other funds, and they're starting to get pressure from those funds to do what's called a capital call, where they have to put more money into the project in order for the project to be viable. We're starting to hear more of that happening.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it. We won't mention any names of where that's happening, but it's going to be happening. And those are the projects that will likely go back, have to be sold quickly or go back to the lender. We've already seen several of them, and we've looked at them, didn't quite make sense yet. We're going to be able to acquire some really great assets in this fund. The things that we're seeing right now, including the distress that we're talking about and interest rates being higher for longer, give us a lot of confidence that there's going to be more of these deals coming.